What are some of the biggest pluses and minuses for the Ducks and a certain Pacific Division rival? We'll talk about all that as I'm joined by Jess Belmosto on today's Locked On Anaheim Ducks. Let's hit it.
You're Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to this crossover. As you all know, I'm JD Hernandez, the host of Locked On Anaheim Ducks. And hey, today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline is where the game starts. And by the way, speaking of BetOnline, they have lines for Stanley Cup Finals for next season. So
I feel like we just wrapped up the hockey season, and we're already talking about the next winners. Oh my goodness. Well, I would say we have some winners and losers of the off season so far in the Pacific Division, and we have plenty to talk about today. Should we start with the Anaheim Ducks?
Yeah, pluses and minuses. So let's start with the minuses first. Dating back to last season, hey, GM Bob Murray still gone.
Yeah.
I wonder who hired him. Who did hire former Ducks GM Bob Murray? I wonder. Do you happen to know that, Jess?
Was that a Daryl Sutter move?
Maybe a Daryl Sutter move.
Doesn't surprise me.
Yep, just quick personal story. I ran into former Ducks GM Bob Murray after he got fired. Well, after he left the Ducks because he's consulting with some team in Calgary, and the Stockton Heat were in town. So I ran into him. Not in San Diego, in Ontario, of all places. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that. That's it.
Well, I hope he's doing well. I hope everyone in that organization is having a good summer. What's your biggest question for your team? Because I feel like that's where we can start in order to gauge how my question might go.
Okay. So the biggest question for the Ducks is going to be the youth. How are they going to step up and how are they going to fit into this team now that Getzlaf is retired? And I think Trevor Zegras has got to be your top 1C center. And the big question is, who do you pair him up with? Do you put him with Troy Terry? Do you replace him in that role? Troy Terry had a breakout season last year. 37 goals. Troy Terry is supremely good at hockey. Part of that was because he was on a line with Ryan Getzlaf, who just retired, as you know. Yeah. Getzlaf's retired. So now who's going to be Troy Terry's best friend on that line? That's going to be the big question. So could it be Z? Could it be Adam Henrique? I mean, how's that going to fit in? Yeah. And another big question is, where do you put Mason McTavish? Look, McTavish is going to make the team. We could talk about McTavish later, but he should make the team. Where would he fit in? Could he possibly be second line center? Could he make his way there eventually? Or will he start in the third line? Or will Dallas Eakins pull a Dallas Eakins move and put him on the fourth line?
Yeah, I think that's fair. Dallas Eakins is not known to play the youth, and that's kind of what's going on in Anaheim is the youth movement. And my question, I guess, is, we saw them hit a patch of success last season, and we saw them, unfortunately, kind of fizzle out. It wasn't sustainable, but are they going to be in a more competitive position this year and maybe see a little bit more success? Now, I'm not talking like a deep playoff hockey run or anything like that, but can we see a more competitive Anaheim Ducks team?
Short answer, yes. Long answer, yes.
Okay.
Seriously, I don't know about a deep playoff run, but I think they could push for a playoff spot. I do believe that McTavish is the kind of player that can take over a game. We've seen it a lot. Trevor Zegras is growing into that role where he could take over a game. And we've seen Troy Terry take over games last season multiple times. there are guys on this team that could single-handedly win a game for the Ducks multiple times and in multiple ways too. And you add in Strome, you add in John Klingberg, who's a very offensive defenseman. And speaking of the additions to the team, Klingberg, that was a big signing.
That
It's
was
a
a huge
1 year
sign for the team.
it's a 1 year deal. It's a show me deal. But knowing that it's a 1 year deal, this is another contract season for John Klingberg, and he knows if he wants to get paid on a long-term deal, he's gonna have to put up some big numbers this season.
Right.
So I guess really like where does everyone fit in? That's the biggest question, and how are they all going to gel together?
Right. Where do we find that chemistry? And can we create something similar to last year in terms of getting Troy Terry nearly 40 goals? Because
I'm a Troy Terry believer, not
Yeah.
just because we share a birthday, September 10th, by the way, but Virgo's what up. Anyway,
Yeah.
I'm not going to say Virgo rising. I'm not going to go there.
Yeah. But
Yeah. But he could be rising later on this season when we get to that part of the year where he could go on a run where he could score a goal a game, again and again and again.
oh,
We all forgot conveniently that Troy Terry had a streak last year. Remember, he had a streak of like 11 bajillion games in a row where he scored a point, ended up being
yeah.
around 20. But
Yeah.
yeah, we kind of forgot about that. I remember that you talked about it briefly on the Locked On NHL podcast, and you said, "What, like, where did he come?" I think your exact words were, "Where did he come from?"
Yeah. Because Sarah and I were talking about it, and we were both kind of like, you could tell me Troy Terry has been in the league for like 15 years, or you could tell me he's a rookie, and I would believe both answers. Because, like, I don't know, he just flew under the radar for a while, I think. And then last season,
He flew like a duck.
yes, he took his wings, he took flight, he grew those wings and just launched himself to 37 goals, which is crazy. And, we're
Yeah.
going to talk more about these teams coming up next. But if you want to bet on Troy Terry and how many goals he's going to score, I guarantee you BetOnline has a prop and a line for you. And betonline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all of your betting needs. Find your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. You can find reviews and news of every league from Major League Baseball, the NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and yes, golf. And BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports wagering information. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more about the action happening right now. BetOnline, where the game starts.
Bet responsibly, folks.
Yes, please bet responsibly.
Do not bet on the. I'll do this once. Do not bet on the Phoenix Coyotes. Sorry. That's my one. That's my one I'm allowed this month.
That's fair, and I'm very happy you're doing it on Locked On Flames. Well, it's a crossover, but what we all appreciate a good.
I would
jab.
never do. I would never do this on Locked On Coyotes. They would yell at me.
Yeah, you'd be booted from the studio.
I probably would. So, yeah, Troy Terry could launch Pad McQuack his way to 40 goals this season, maybe. Ha! There's your
Yeah,
DuckTales reference.
I love that.
Yeah. Could he get 40?
Maybe.
It depends. It depends. I believe in him.
I think if the team has, a solid mesh with chemistry and kind of getting their lines in order, or should I say all of their ducks in a row, they will be able to probably have a 40-goal scorer and multiple 20-plus goal scorers.
Bravo.
Thank you very much.
Speaking of chemistry and new faces, a division rival of the Ducks, the Flames, they've got some additions and subtractions as well, and some interesting ones. Some
Yes.
that made a big splash. There was the major subtraction. I mean, you know, let's talk about it for just a few seconds. Johnny Gaudreau's the big minus, but a huge plus in Jonathan Huberdeau. So you're replacing one John with another John. So you could
Yeah.
keep this. You could keep the same goal song and play Johnny Be Good.
Could you imagine? I think Flames fans would be even like feel even more betrayed, but I love it. I think that would be incredibly like I don't know,
There's
just
there's
petty.
plenty of other songs with John in the name that you
Right.
could use. Although
But
it might be a bit trolling. But how do you see the chemistry with Jonathan Huberdeau on this team?
I see this as a giant positive because, the Flames, Daryl Sutter hockey is very replicable. And you can
Hmm.
just play that same game night in and night out. And we saw how well that worked for this Flames team last year. And the fact that you could train an old dog, Johnny Gaudreau, 27 years old, and I'm referring to him as old, but he was able to change his game and become a two-way player. And you know what?
All the 30 somethings watching, I apologize.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm 27. I'm about to be 27, and it kills me referring to like players like 28, 29, like entering the quote unquote wrong side of their 30s. According to this, isn't my verbiage, this is sports. But I think Huberdeau coming in really saves the Flames. I think it helps a lot. Did I think? I don't mean this to be disrespectful to Matthew Tkachuk because obviously he was a very important player for the Flames last year. But I do think his line mates and where he was in the lineup helped a lot
Yeah.
more than if he, when he goes out to Florida, Sunshine, Florida, and plays with whoever he's playing with. And almost the same thing with Gaudreau in Columbus because that line was so special. I
Hmm.
don't know who the top line center in Columbus is.
That's a good point. I mean, there's a world where Johnny Gaudreau could be in a second line. I don't see it, but there is a possibility. I don't see it personally.
Yeah, no, I don't see that at all.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know what either of those two teams look like enough to say the Flames won the trade. The Flames, what I will say is the Flames did upgrade from July 8th. No, when did free agency open? July 13th, rather,
Yeah.
to the following week. I will say that. They had 2/3 of their top line leave. One of the best lines in hockey. And you can't just be like, all righty, you're going to bounce back to the player you were in 2012, Lucic, and you're going to play on this top line. Okay, Brett Ritchie, you're going to get some of this playing time on the right wing, on the front line, and then expect to win. That's not how it works. The Flames did what they have to do. Do I think Tyler Toffoli being a long-term solution on that top line is realistic? No.
Oh.
I don't know. I feel like, and something about his skating just doesn't sit right with me for the top line.
That's an interesting remark because I know some Kings fans would agree with you there,
Mhm.
where skating has his skating's fine.
Yeah.
I don't want to say it's elite skating. He was great on that 70s line in Los Angeles with Toffoli and some guy named Jeff Carter. You may have
Never
heard of
heard of
him.
him.
Yeah, I don't know if I've heard of him. He's apparently pretty good.
I
So
guess.
when he was on that 70s line, he was kind of flanked by good skating and some elite goal scoring, which, by the way, Jeff Carter, he can be a huge goal scorer when the times dictated. I mean, hell, he was a 50 goal scorer at one point in his career.
Absurd.
Mhm.
Absurd.
Yeah, keep
But
that in the back of your mind, by the way, that Jeff Carter was a 50 goal scorer at one time in his career. My God.
it leaves me with a lot of questions.
It left me with questions too, but part of that was why the Kings had those runs in 2012 and 2014. And you could see that being replicated with this line possibly. Hey, if you put Huberdeau and Toffoli on the same unit in the power play, I could see that being a red hot power play unit, pun intended.
Yeah, I think that they really do need to come in to this season with a better plan than what I have in my head, and selling it with confidence because
Yeah. Now do it in the style of Coach Sutter.
yeah, exactly. So,
Like,
they have a lot of ground to make up. They have players starting out this season on LTIR. Chris Tanev, I don't understand how he played that one playoff game.
ooh, yeah.
Is existing at that point, but he's going to be rehabbing and coming back slowly. And then, another question is Sean Monahan.
Yeah, that's a big
The
question
last
mark.
year of his contract, right? It's contract year for him. Flames are probably going to say thanks, but no thanks because of his injuries.
They're gonna say bye. So to I guess imitate Coach Sutter, because hey, don't forget Sutter was here in Anaheim too. You stole him from the Ducks. He was perfectly fine being a advisor to the coach. He was perfectly fine being an advisor and doing his role. And then all of a sudden, here comes the Flames taking Sutter from the Ducks.
Yeah, the Flames had just gotten their butts kicked by Ottawa.
And yeah, you feel happy with yourself about that?
No, and then they went out and kicked Ottawa's butt. Jeff Ward is fired at 1 a.m. And then they're like, oh yeah, by the way, we hired Daryl Sutter in the same breath. So
yeah, like WTF.
Yeah, it was a very interesting time.
Yeah, just a little bit. But I'm gonna try my best Sutter here. Yep. Toffoli's going to be one of our guys. Hubie's going to be our main guy. We'll roll with him. Matt will be there too. Next.
Yeah. No.
He's a man of few words.
He is.
Part of me loves his interviews. Loves it so much. I ran into him a couple times when he was, still down here in SoCal. And he would come by San Diego a couple times. He's much more talkative when he's not in front of the media, which is the strange thing. Like, if you catch him at the right time, he can get talkative.
I fully believe that, because I feel like, there is this perception of how a coach has to be with the media, and a lot of the times, Daryl Sutter was doing Bill Belichick before Bill Belichick was doing his thing.
He was, you're right.
And that's okay with me. I don't care about, I'm not looking for you to solve the problems that just happened out on the ice in this post-game press conferences. Because if you had the answer, you would have solved it while you were behind the bench. And I just give us a quote or two that we can clip and work with. And that's it. That's all.
He'll give you a quote once in a while, at least.
Yeah.
Once in a while, he'll say more than 5 words and it's news.
Yeah. Ooh, I didn't mean to throw my keyboard there, but
or the one time that he dissed the refs during a playoff run a while ago. That was fun.
He made a very great quote. He gave one at the beginning and it wasn't even the playoffs. It was like as the season was wrapping up. It was before the Flames had clinched the Pacific Division winners, whatever. He was like, anybody who's going out to face Colorado is wasting 8 days because they're just going to get swept. And that happened. Right. How many times did Colorado sweep this postseason? Twice.
Just a couple of times, yeah.
Yeah. So I think that he's a man of few words, but when he does elaborate, it's great. I think it's something.
He wasn't wrong.
No.
Now that you
And
said, I remember thinking, oh man, that's kind of dissing whoever Colorado faces. Like that was a huge diss. Not wrong, but a
not wrong,
diss.
but it also speaks to how talented Colorado is, and I think that that's a very fair statement.
I thank goodness that the Ducks only had to be in that division for one season, playing Colorado 8 times that year. Oh,
You know,
that was a long season, even though it was only 56 games. That was a long season.
when everyone was like, "Oh, should they make the North Division permanent?" No, no,
No, no,
no,
no,
no.
no,
Because if
no.
I
And
have to,
NHL, AHL, no.
no, if I have to see the Toronto Maple Leafs 9 times in a season, I don't want it.
Mm,
And it was just,
mm.
it was miserable. Like, I probably need to have like a group therapy session with all the other North Division hosts
Oh,
because
because the
it
hockey
was,
world totally revolves around the Maple Leafs, as everybody knows.
oh,
It's
but it
all
was,
about the Maple Leafs. It's all about them making a deep playoff run in 2018. It's all about them making a deep playoff run in 2019. It's all about them making a deep playoff run in 2020. It's all about them doing that again in 2021 and 22. And you know what happened all 5 of those times?
first round
They
exits.
they exited on the winner take all game.
I just,
Part of me loved the Schadenfreude of seeing Steve Dangle lose his mind.
yes, I love that.
Sorry, Steve, but
Yeah, no, Steve, great dude. We have nothing but love for him and his team, but like
but
his
I
network.
love it.
No,
I love the ballistic. Just I can't
I
love
can't
it.
imagine screaming like that day in and day out. But hey, it pays
Well,
the
you
bill.
remember what I did a couple seasons ago. You remember that?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
hopefully the bosses don't see this, but back in the Wild West days when I was yelling and um, drinking stuff that wasn't water, you
Apple
know those days.
apple juice.
Yeah, apple juice. Fermented, delicious apple juice. Anyway, uh, you know, we're doing this crossover, and both of our teams are in the Pacific Division, but we could get a lot of discussion out of talking about just the division at large
Yeah,
because there's a lot of questions around the entire division. We could probably go through all of these teams
yeah,
and probably get like 3 days worth of content because we're both so talkative.
yeah. Honestly, and
Yeah.
100%. Like I wrote down my questions because I wasn't gonna remember them off the top of my head. And I was like, we could easily dissect all of these in a week's worth of content,
Oh yeah.
probably more.
I mean, the one team that I won't talk a whole lot about is the San Jose Sharks because, you know, as the talking heads said, same as it ever was.
Yeah,
Same as it ever was.
that's pretty
They're
much what
old.
I have written down.
Yeah,
Will they
they're
be able to
old.
take steps in
They
positive
have they have they
progress?
have big contracts. The only change is that the Barracuda are in a new arena.
That's yeah.
But the Barracuda have some cool new jerseys.
They do. I really like those, and I
Those are
hope
those are nice.
those are. I really like them.
Oh, speaking of new AHL jerseys, I can't believe I didn't talk about this. There's a new kid in town in Calgary. You know, I cover the American Hockey League primarily,
Yes.
and I'm a little sad that the Stockton Heat are no more, mainly because there's some great people that work in Stockton. I made
Mhm.
friends up there, they're really cool. And now they're the Calgary Wranglers. That's a little strange. That arena is going to be just busy all the time, and I'm going to have to get used to seeing the Calgary Wranglers when they come down here with their San Diego, Ontario visits when that
Yeah.
happens.
So
That's a little strange, isn't it? But hey, look at who's going to be the new captain of the Calgary Wranglers. A Sutter.
wow, I cannot believe nepotism has once again won in hockey.
Hold on. Wait. I will say this. The reason that Brett Sutter came to the Ontario Reign was because his family was down here and
Right.
he wanted to be closer to everyone. Because of COVID, Brett Sutter couldn't see his special guy. You know, he couldn't see his brother,
Couldn't see
who
Chris.
couldn't see, which is his biggest supporter.
I love Chris.
Even
Again,
even
another episode.
even Ducks fans love Chris. You know,
He was at the 10th anniversary of the Kings reunion this past weekend.
Yep,
Chris Sutter is a hockey icon.
he is. Oh, did I ever talk about the time I ran into him in Anaheim?
No, please share.
No. So this wasn't during a Ducks game. This was during a Rain Goals preseason game at the pond because Brett Sutter was there. And you know who was roaming the hallways?
Chris.
Chris. You know who else roamed the hallways?
Daryl.
Daryl. You know who else roamed the hallways and I bumped into? Mike Stuthers, the former Rain coach, the now Ducks assistant coach, because you know we go back a ways. So it was good seeing all those guys in that atmosphere where you're like everyone's just chill
Yeah.
and everyone's like, yeah, I'll talk to you. I remember you. I remember like we talked for a bit, and then I see Chris with just the biggest smile on his face because Brett Sutter is right there warming up and he's got the biggest smile. And even some of the Ducks fans were like, we remember you. We love you. And, you know, the Ducks fans that were there that do know him, you know, they talked to him, got a picture. So he's just beloved by a lot of the teams in the Pacific Division. And that's actually kind of the main reason why Brett left Ontario, wanted to go to Calgary, is to be closer to his family and to be closer to his brother, who he cares so deeply about.
I don't know. I know that Daryl he did an interview where he talked about how important Calgary is and how important it was for him and obviously his family to be there for the resources that they have at the time, that they had at the time for Chris, and how just it's more than just home to them. It's something so much more. And I feel like that's, you know, there's moments like that when you look into players and coaches' lives and see like the real aspect of life, the human side of them, like Nick Foligno deciding to come to Boston because his daughter has a heart condition and they were going to be right down the street from Boston Children's Hospital where she has been followed her entire life by doctors. Daryl going back to Calgary, Brett going back to Calgary, like, and even Gaudreau going to Columbus, so he doesn't have to worry about international travel the same way that he did with COVID. And Calgary fans, I swear to God, they'd never looked at a map before in their life, and they don't know how planes or transportation works because they're like, well, he's not home. At some point in your life, you're going to move out and be so grateful you don't live 2 minutes away from your family. I promise.
Thanks so much to Jess Belmosto for joining the podcast once again. And if you want to hear the rest of that, that'll be a bonus episode over the weekend. So, hey, stay tuned for that. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right. Thank you so much for listening and watching if you're on YouTube. And thanks to all of you for your continued support. Those of you that have supported for the last number of years, you guys are awesome. I appreciate all of you. And don't forget, this podcast is free and available across all platforms, including Stitcher, Spotify, Odyssey, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podbean, Not Smoke Signal. If you want to follow me on Twitter, there is my personal Twitter, @StimpyJD, and the show's Twitter is @LO_Ducks, where we'll be talking a little bit about World Juniors, which will be concluding this weekend. So I'll try to post as much content about that as possible. And yeah, just follow along as Mason McTavish continues his quest to win gold up in Canada. So do check that out. I will be talking more about Mason McTavish on Monday or Tuesday's edition, whenever that is, of Locked On Anaheim Ducks. So once again, just thank you all for listening. Thanks for making this your first listen. Don't forget to make Locked On NHL
your second listen of the day. I know Gil Martin typically does Mondays, so you got Gil Martin on there, you got Brett Holden on there, you got Jess Belmosto, who I just talked to, and Rachel Donner. You got a slew of great hosts on the Locked On NHL Network, so check out Locked On NHL. Make that your second listen, and hey, make Locked On Flames your third listen if you want to know more about the Calgary Flames, our divisional rival. So check them out. Once again, thank you so much for your continued support. It's greatly appreciated. For Locked On Anaheim Ducks, I'm Jason JD Hernandez saying have a great weekend, and don't forget to stay tuned tomorrow. Please continue to be safe out there and be kind to one another. And Ducks, fly together.